So welcome to the review as read. Today we're talking about Vulkan Lives Onto the Anvil by Nick Kyme from the Horus Heresy series from the Black Library. Now this is book 26 of the Horus Heresy series, and so we'll go through the same process. We'll talk about what the book's about, the cons, the pros, and a conclusion. So let's begin. So the Vulkan Lives is basically about of course the Primarch Vulkan from the Salamanders chapter, and this is about what happens to him when he is basically caught by the Night Lord's Primarch Konrad Curze and is tortured and all. And this is basically his story and that part of the Horus Heresy. There's also a side story involving his equerry and some surviving salamanders, along with some other chapter space marines which have survived Istvaan V, and their story basically, and how their little mission and story builds into the bigger picture, along with a perpetual, which is a special kind of human, with John Grammaticus, which you read of before in other books in this series. So again, this is those stories and how they fit into the bigger picture of the Horus Heresy. Now let's first talk about the cons of the book. Now the cons of the book, the biggest thing is you need prior knowledge to read this book. There's no doubt about it. If you had no knowledge of the book and you read it by itself, the writing is not bad, but the problem is a lot of stuff will fly over your head. There's basically 25 books plus audiobooks and everything inclusive. All that knowledge and all that stuff builds into each of these stories. Now there are some stories which you can read by themselves, like for example Fulgrim, which I feel is one of the best Horus Heresy books out there. But Vulkan Lives is not that book. You need prior knowledge to understand this book. A lot of the things they refer to, for example, the Cabal, what a Primarch is, a Space Marine, the differences. If you don't even know the differences, example with a Primarch compared to a Space Marine, and you don't feel in awe when you hear about a Primarch, then you basically won't get the feelings in this story that the author is trying to bring out. And so to truly enjoy the book, you need prior knowledge. Now, also the thing about the first third of the book, you get an ebb and flow between a high and a low in the book, because when you start reading, and I'm assuming that at this point that you have knowledge of the Horus Heresy, all right, you're hearing about the Primarch Vulkan, and it's really interesting, and you know how he's being tortured by his brother, Konrad Curze. And then you would jump to the side story, which is the one with John Grammaticus and the equerry of the Salamanders and all, and their little side mission. And at the start, you don't really know them, and also the mission seems somewhat. You're not very sure what the mission's about. So it really is like a filler episode. Feels like a filler episode in anime, where it takes away from the cool story, and you're just watching to fill space. It feels like that in the first third of the book. So that's also a big part of the first third of the book. And also another thing is the ending. Now, if of course, like I say, if you're reading this as a standalone, this is also one of the plots, because the ending feels like sequel baiting, and for obvious reason, because this book was not meant as a standalone book, so it doesn't fill in all the big holes that you want to be filled if this was a standalone book. So you have to know that too. So that's the cons of the book. And so let's move into the pros of the book. Now the pros of the book, I'm pretty conflicted, because this is one of the most conflicted books I had, because I gotta say I was very engaged reading this book. I kept wanting to turn the page, because this book has the writing style by Nick Kyme in this book is fantastic for it's like a puzzle, because I'll give you an example. No spoilers, but the Salamander Primarch Vulkan is being tortured by Konrad Curze, and he does it over and over and over again. And he's torturing him so many different ways that he actually manages to write it so that you yourself are starting to doubt what's real and what's not. So because it keeps happening over and over again. And I won't lie, at one point I was thinking, he's doing something, but it can't be real. Maybe it's psychically, put in his head or something like that. And then after that, the story went on, and I started to read, and I go, wait, maybe this is real. You see, so it's like that part of that. These torture scenes keep going on and on. How he's being tortured and all that really makes you think it's like a puzzle. What's happening to Vulkan? Again, I can't really say too much because I don't want to spoil it, but it's really interesting. Makes you want to keep turning the page to find out whether your guess was right. On top of that, after the first third of the book, the side mission of the Salamander's Equerry also gets that to that level with John Grammaticus and all, because about this artifact they found, so you also guess in how that artifact plays into the bigger story, and how these Space Marines are adding to that story, and they also start to get really interesting, and things start to go awry, and there's a word bearer who's starting to doubt his own views. So again, that is also another puzzle that, again, the same writing style makes you guess, keep wanting to say like, okay, this is going to happen, so you want to find out what happens next, so you keep turning the page. So writing is very good. Makes me want to keep reading on and finding out what happens. Another thing is, if you're reading this as a Vulkan story, very much gives you the feeling of what Vulkan is all about. This book, of course, is about him, and it gives about his mindset of what he believes in and everything like that. You really get to know about Vulkan as a person, really, and on top of that, these side characters also get a lot of billing, because they get really focused on, amazingly, for so many side characters, at least they concentrate on a few. The ones that do get focused on, you really start to feel for them. You start to get, really invested in them. Like I said, after the first third, even the side characters and the side mission, I was really involved with them, and I wanted to see what happened to them. And also on top of that, because of that puzzle, so all this makes you keep wanting to turn the page, and just really well written that way. From one of the loyalist Space Marines, whether actually were they wrong? Because with a being such as the Emperor, shouldn't he be worshipped somewhere as a god? Everybody starts to doubt themselves and everything like that. And like I said, it's a puzzle. It's just fantastic writing, just keeps you wanting to know more. So overall, I am conflicted, because like I said, I like to review books as a standalone, but I absolutely finished this much earlier than I thought I would, because I kept wanting to find out if I was right. So this book really tests me on that point. Am I super keen to reread it, or do I see myself rereading it really soon? Not really, but did I not enjoy reading it? No, I really enjoyed reading it. So take that as how you view this book. But a good book, I do not mind reading it, but do note you more than likely need to read this with prior knowledge of the Horus Heresy and the books before this. As a standalone, probably not a good idea. So thank you very much. Till next word.